Hey, we got a doctor on the show, so he's probably going to be late. Sorry. Coming up, live in the lab with Keith Bilous.
Hi, I'm Keith Bilous, and this is Live in the Lab.
All right. A little bit of weirdness in front of the camera there for anybody who's watching. So I'm like, hey, where's the button? Where's the button? I can't get it going.
How did you go viral on TikTok? You were on America's Got Talent. How much do you get paid to be on AGT? Oh, you didn't get paid.
Keith and Steve here in Live in the Lab.
You're a great interviewer. I love it.
48 miles, 48 hours. And not just once. You ain't seen nothing yet. I hit 50 last time, and I'm like, yeah, things are a little different than they were 10 years ago. So trust me, things are to keep.
You have no time for the BS that much of society seems to put on the table. Why is that? Like, what you're talking about is real right now. There's just no bullshit here, but it's just real.
We brought you in with some Marley. I said, Joseph, let's talk music for a second. You said, well, Keith, oldies, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've never talked to a sir before. Why are you a sir? In many ways, we're the same story. I came from nothing. You came from nothing.
I think the old saying goes that if you want a trophy, you climb Everest. If you want respect, you climb K2.
I've built my own myself, and it's pretty fascinating when you can have a conversation with yourself with your own knowledge. Have you done that before? Why are we rushing to make these tools if all they're going to do is hurt humanity?
Does the world need an Oppenheimer moment with AI?
What a fun show.
All right, so we just don't have a long monologue today. No, not a long monologue because we're on the bill, I think. We're on the clock. We got a doctor coming up. Yeah, we do. He's late. He was late. I love when my guests are late because it gives me the ultimate permission to throw them under the chair. Come on. It takes no talent to be on time these days, doctor. He's thinking, what? I never met this guy and he's throwing me under the bus already? He's haven't even been 3 minutes in the lab. I'm supposed to be the guy's guest and he's tossing me over there. I am Dr. Laby. You know, nation, we have a sports visionary expert. Is that not a hook? Forgot my glasses. I got my contacts in though. Hey, I slept in them a couple nights ago. You sleep in your contacts? Man, that ever a pisser, right? You wake up in the morning, you're all like, you're all like crusty eyes. You feel like you got sand on them. You can't see worth shit. You're like, oh my God. Oh, I slept in my contacts. It stresses me out. Because then I lay there and go, okay, I guess you take them out. And then I fast fall asleep again to try to get my eyes all wet because I know in like 4 minutes I got to put them back in again. Just hate that. Just hate that whole thing. Anyways, we got Dr. Daniel Laby joining us today live in the lab. We're talking sports vision, sports. I'm going to try to say the word. Oh, I'm from Canada. I am. Sorry. Ophthalmologist. Yeah. He's nodding in the green room. I can see him nodding. Yeah, I got a fan. Dr. Daniel Laby coming to join us here in a few moments. Hey, did you catch the morning show today? What? You didn't? What? Dr. Daniel Laby, did you know I have a morning show? He's thinking, what is it, 1980, Keith? It is. If you watch the opener, it's actually like 1980. Here, let me show you a little teaser of what the opener looks like here on the morning show. Check this out. I'm telling you, it's the ultimate in 2024 cheese, but it is awesome. You know why? I'm going to tell you something all right now. Listen, you know I like to pause, but I'm telling you what I'm going to tell you next is super important because what we're doing in the morning is something that people like to do. They like to connect. It's true. We like to connect. Human beings love to connect. So in the mornings, we connect. We connect people all over the world, myself and Nicole Bernard. We had somebody in from San Francisco today. We had somebody in from New Zealand and Italy yesterday, all over the planet coming together at 8 a.m. Eastern time to have what, nation? A big conversation. It's true. It's true. And Dr. Laby, now that you've been here, you're invited back in the morning. Bring your coffee. Bring your glasses. But if you've slept in your contacts all night, you can bring them too. All right, so I'm going to bring the doctor in because I know we're on the clock right now. He's probably going, all right, Billis, you got 40 some odd minutes left. I'm getting out of here. He's nodding right now. He's like, I got a hard stop in 48 minutes. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the music down. I'm going to bring in the doctor, Dr. Daniel Laby. What's going on, Mr. MD?
Hey, Keith, how you doing? So apologies on the link. I had trouble connecting.
Nation, you know how this works, right? The guests are late, and then what they do is they blame the technology. I'm telling you, everybody has an excuse for being late, yet
Yet, as Joseph Malone said, our soldier on Monday, hey, Daniel Labby, I had a soldier in the lab on Monday. The guy was on the south side of Chicago, sticking needles in his arm, doing heroin, woke up one day going, I'm either going to jail, I'm going to be dead, or I'm going to become a Marine. So he becomes a Marine, ends up being a special ops person. And we talk about just this idea of being on time and being present, right? So I bring it full circle back to that. But I'm super excited you're here today. I mean, super excited. I've been wearing glasses my whole life, so I thought I'd get a free lesson on seeing. What? But you are a sports ophthalmologist.
Well, we need to talk about your contact lens sleeping at night. That's the problem.
Yes, it is. It only happens every now and then, or if I have a nap in the afternoon because I got this morning show now. But you know, when I do fall asleep at night, and I'm like, oh, so it happened last week. I got up for a pee. I'm old now, so you know how long pees take when we get older, right? They take for like an hour. You stand there like, okay, pee, and you wait, and you pee longer. We keep waiting. But anyways, I was like, oh, I got my contacts in. Went back to sleep, took them out, and I wore my glasses for the first hour.
Yeah, you want to minimize that as best you can.
I hear you, my friend. So listen, it's not about me, it's about you today. Where are you joining us? I'm excited to have you here. We're here to talk about sports vision, ophthalmology, and so much. You're joining us from New York today, am I correct?
Yeah, Manhattan. Rainy, drizzly, cold Manhattan.
Oh, so why should you be any different? It's the same thing here in Winnipeg, Canada. If I would have shot you a note, it's rainy, cold, it's snowing actually a little bit. It's overcast. Yeah. So doctor, what's a sports ophthalmologist, a vision expert like yourself do?
Well, not so much looking at disease or injury, but looking at what we can do to help athletes perform at their best, at their full potential. We don't want the eyes to be holding them back at all. And when I say eyes, it's not just the eyeballs, it's actually the brain and decision-making and motor actions guided by vision. All that is in the realm of sports or performance vision, sports vision.
Yeah, no kidding. So you work with, sorry, my camera a little messed up here. So who's your target client? Are you private practice? Are you working with teams, agencies? Like, are they coming to you? Or are you going to them? Or how does your practice work, doctor?
Yeah, it's quite a variety. A lot of the work is with teams. Okay. I have six Major League Baseball teams this season I'm working with. Okay. I've worked with the NBA teams, NHL teams, a little bit of NFL consulting, some Premier League, over in the UK. Olympic teams over the years. So it's quite a variety. F1 drivers, archers, shooters, all different. You can't really play sports without your eyes. So anyone who's interested in performing at their best, comes to me either privately or through a team to try to evaluate, train, improve, fix whatever we can do to optimize things.
So this is where I can get kind of nerdy with you because nation knows I like to get kind of nerdy. So take me through, here's a pun. Take me through the eyes of an archer or take me through the eyes of an F1 driver, because how quick they have to react from what they see here to what process is here to what's happening in the hands. Like, what are you seeing in their eyes that you're not seeing in my eyes, for example?
Well, they don't sleep with their contact lenses, number one. That's a big piece of it. They get in big trouble if they do that.
Yes. Yes.
The difference really each sport is different. Each sport has a different spectrum of visual needs. Think about a driver. They have to know what's happening in front of them. They have to know what's happening, on the sides of them peripherally at the same time. They have to react accordingly and so forth. If you're a baseball batter, though, this side vision doesn't matter at all. It's only what's in front of you with the pitcher and the ball coming towards you. If you're a hockey goalie, it's like an F1 driver. It's very intense, right? But things are moving really fast, really fast. We have to try to save the game. And games are a 1-2 goal, difference to winning versus losing. The pressure is really on the goalkeeper to do that. Same thing with soccer or English football and so forth. And so each sport, archery is different as well. For example, we took care of the U.S. Olympic team for Beijing, and we evaluated the archers and the boxers, among other sports. And when we found the archers had really good vision, really sharp vision, but their depth perception wasn't outstanding. On the other hand, the boxers had really good depth perception, but the vision wasn't so hot. So the kind of the opposite of the archer. And if you think about it, there's a reason. The archery target is far away, so you have to see really clearly to know where to aim. But the target's flat. There is no depth to the target. So ability to determine depth isn't important for archery because the target's flat. If you're a boxer, though, depth is really important because if you don't get the right depth, you're going to get a hook to the jaw, and you're going to be in trouble. But you don't have to see really clearly because you have a big opponent right in front of you. It's not very hard to see what's going on there. And so it really depends on the sport, what kind of visual needs you need.
So this might seem like an obvious question, but not obvious to me. When you're optimizing somebody's eyesight who is
focused on the front, and you said perhaps not the peripheral, I guess the side vision, right?
Mhm.
Are you like working on helping them see better this way, not really too concerned about over here, like actually saying, it doesn't matter, Keith, that you can't see over here because you really need to see this way? Like, is that really what the case is?
No, what we don't there you don't there's no glasses that are designed for center and not for periphery or so forth.
Right. Okay. Yes.
We naturally have the sharpest vision where we're looking directly. We're looking at that's our sharpest vision, and as
Okay.
we move to the periphery, the vision naturally gets less.
Mhm.
But it's not just a matter of vision; it's a matter of awareness, right? You have to be able to detect motion. You have to know where your opponents are. So you don't have to see them clearly, but you need to tell. Is the jersey your team or is the jersey color the other team? You need to see how fast they're moving, and you have to be able to pay attention to that while you're focused on the sharp vision in the center.
Oh yeah, yeah. Doctor, who has the best vision out of athletes?
Everybody asks that question, and the
Okay,
answer
I don't like to ask the same question. Let's ask something else. I'm kidding. Who has the best vision?
well, I can't tell you any names of anybody who has the best vision, but the question is, who has the best package of vision? Who has the best, sharpness, decision making, reaction time, hand-eye coordination, the best package altogether? And I'll tell you, one of the top people was Manny Ramirez with the Boston Red Sox. Didn't have the sharpest vision. People had better vision, but he had really good in everything. That he was excellent though.
When I think that's more what I was, the names weren't as important to me as, like, I guess the question was probably better positioned as what sport has the best, are they goalies? Are they pitchers? Are they batters? Are they F1 drivers? Like who collectively is, all right, you got the best vision, Mr. Billis, you got to go play that sport.
Well, it's more a matter of looking at your pattern of what you're good at and then seeing which sport that matches. For example, I mentioned the archers and the boxers. So if you have poor depth perception but really sharp vision, you're not going to be a great boxer. You may be a good archer, you might be a good batter. So it really depends on what constellation of abilities you have and then kind of matching that to the sport. And that's useful because we have, high school players and maybe playing 2 or 3 different sports, and they want to go on to college and play a sport. And which one should they play? You can't play all those sports in college really effectively. And so we can sort of help them decide your natural abilities. If you're equal physically and everything, here's where your visual and your visual cognitive and your decision making and your motor is going to play the best. And maybe think about this sport as being your primary sport.
So, doctor, with the value of our vision and your expertise, like, dude, you're in Manhattan. You're charging up the cash for your experience, man. You're good for you. That, because I'm thinking, like, the services you're providing to your customers is, there's not a lot of margin for error, because if I'm looking for an edge, what you're helping me with is game changer by the way that I could get paid, or by the championships that we make, or whether I'm going to live or die maybe on a racetrack. Like, what you're doing is quite substantial, frankly.
Well, I've offered people to give me a percentage of their future, earnings, and that would be far better than what I'm making now. No one has gone for that yet, and unfortunately, there is some limitation of what I can charge. So I'm not doing as well as you might think.
Sure.
But what's gratifying is to take people that are starting out that we can make a difference on, and then we see them go through the minor league in baseball into the major leagues, and they have a successful career. And I was there at day one, right? I corrected them, gave them contacts. These are connections that I've had with some players for 20 years, their entire careers, and even to watch someone like, for example, Stephen Drew, who we corrected in 2013, I think 2013 or 2018 World Series, maybe 2018, and corrected his vision. He went out and he had a great last game, and that helped clinch the World Series for the Red Sox. That was very gratifying to see that change in performance the day after I gave him his contact lenses. So that's the sort of thing that gets you some payment. Maybe it's not cash, but it's certainly gratifying and justifies a lot of the years and time I spent in putting this all together.
It's got to be very gratifying, because in many ways, doctor, you're on his team, right? And in many ways, you're, I know I was joking with you throughout the show, but you're very much an unsung hero on an athlete's team, because we, where I'm going to get our conversation eventually is going to, I think, surprise some people, because I don't want to say we take vision for granted, but we take vision for granted.
Absolutely. People, not everybody, and I can tell you the teams that are less successful don't think about vision very much. And the teams that think about vision and the other areas around vision that bring me in, along with other people, are the ones who are successful. And we do get some recognition. Like I have a bunch of rings, championship rings that we get from the clubs. The front office obviously is a great relationship with many of them. and thankful. Some players very thankful, the ones I work with. Other players I don't do much with, so they don't even know I am, which is fine. So it is I get thanked. Let's put it that way.
That's great. So there are clubs that don't believe in this then, or clubs or sports or owners, or I'm just going to kind of be somewhat generalistic, but there are some that don't believe in the edge of vision. Am I correct?
Well, if you look at the teams that haven't made it to the playoffs or the World Series, or the postseason, they're the ones who probably aren't doing much in the world of vision.
Really? Much. It's the edge is that fine. And the value that but the value that a vision's expert or a vision ophthalmologist would provide, is that significant? Is it?
Well, I think, and this is, I think, an important concept. I'm not the one that makes teams win the World Series.
No.
What I am is a piece of the puzzle. And when the team looks towards vision, they're also looking at many other areas that, when you put together, makes a championship team. Yes. And so myself, along with a whole bunch of other people that work with the clubs and the players, are able, and the outlook of the club, to look at the statistics, the data, the projections of players, all of that packaged together. And when the team thinks like that, I'm involved in that process, and that's where the team's successful.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you talk of vision, so I'm here in Winnipeg, Canada, the home of the great Vezina Trophy winner Connor Hellebuyck, and he's often videoed prior to game where his eyes are kind of going like this. They're always back and forth, and he's one of, if not the only goalie in the league where you see him actively exercising his eyes. And I would tell you, being a local guy here with local media, it's like a thing around here, right? Oh, there's Connor doing his thing. His eyes are going back and forth. And you see him doing his eye exercises. You don't see a lot of other goaltenders doing that, or at least not publicly. Have you seen Connor do that? Do you know what I'm speaking about?
Yeah, I've seen, but I think it's not so much eye exercise. You don't need to exercise your eyes going back and forth. There's no physiological reason why you need to do that to make them stronger or anything. What I think he's doing, though, is a mindset. He's putting himself in the right mindset of how to use his eyes. Because just like Lionel Messi, he scans the pitch, continually back and forth. He knows where everybody is every minute of every second. And if you're a goalkeeper, you want the same thing. You need to be able to really scan the ice, incredibly well to know where everybody is, if you're going to have a chance, to block a shot, right? And so I think that's what he's doing. He's putting himself in the mindset of scanning as opposed to trying to train or exercise.
Right, I see. So in a literal sense, visualizing, like getting used to the fact that my eyes got to go over here real quick, so I'm going to start doing it right now.
Yeah, visualization doesn't necessarily mean you're moving your eyes, but the idea in your mind of planning what you're going to do, visualizing what you do, has been shown, to be very effective in warming up and practice.
Yeah. Doctor, how common is it for a player to reach out to you instead of the team? So for example, is it quite common for goalies to be knocking on your door and their teams are supportive of it, or is it more common for teams to be leading the discussion?
It goes both ways.
It does.
We get the professional level, players have autonomy to do what they want.
Yes.
They can't be forced to do eye work, and they have a choice to do, eye work on their own. So I have, occasionally players will reach out outside the team. Often the team will bring me in, and some players won't want to participate. And, they have the ability per contract to do that. It's not necessarily the smartest thing to do. I think some of them might be afraid, of finding something that could be detrimental to their performance. They say they're already at the professional level. Why do I need to do? I'm already playing where I want to play. Why do I need to do any more? Other ones are like, I want to be the best. I want the best performance. I get the most money on my contract that way. You can make an argument in each direction. In general, it's better to perform at your optimal as opposed to be happy where you are. But some players feel that way. So it really varies back and forth how players connect with me. And the players from all over the world connect. Even sometimes, for example, I did work with Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is the right back for Liverpool, Premier League. And that work with him actually ended up coming through Red Bull. He was a Red Bull athlete, and Red Bull brought me in to do some work and training with him. And so it really, lots of different avenues to get to me.
When again, so I show love and friendship through humor and jest and throwing people under the bus like I did at the beginning. You have a cool job. Like, when you strip it back, you got a pretty cool job, right? Like you help people who ultimately want to perform at a higher level using something they already have, and you're using science and tools and your knowledge to help them perform better. That's pretty freaking cool, man. right? And like that's a really got to be very fulfilling, but also when you kind of just step back from it, it's a pretty neat job.
Well, it's an honor, and it's I
Yeah.
appreciate very much the trust. These guys who have a lot on the line, right? They've spent
Yes.
years, decades, training and trying to perform at their best. And here's a guy that they're gonna trust to do something. Now they don't. It's not always a blank check. That I have to explain. I have to show the reasoning. Literature. Why. And that's perfectly fine. I think that I like when somebody asks me questions and challenges me, because I have to prove prove what I'm saying. And if I can't give the answer, I have to go back and understand it myself, because that means I don't have a good knowledge on the area. And so that's fine. But it's it is a lot, without a doubt, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of star power, star struck type of stuff in the first couple of years.
Yeah,
After
of course.
31 years of doing it, I'm a little less starstruck.
Well, because they put their pants on the same way you do at the end of the day, right? And we both age through life, and you're like, oh, right, I got a few more bucks in the bank than you do, Mr. Athlete. So who the hell are you? But anyways,
that's not the case. These guys are winning, $30 million, $50 million. I'm not there. And that's actually part of, I get a little nervous sometimes when I'm putting a contact lens on somebody, for example, that's a contract. And if I scratch his cornea, he's not going to play for a couple of days. That's a hit, and that's not going to go well. And so there is a little bit, I won't say extra stress, because anybody, doesn't matter how much they make when I put contacts on them, but it's just another piece in the back of your mind when that's the case.
Yeah. So, okay, let me ask you this. Without names, has there been a situation where you had a client, maybe a high profile customer, or even not, where you've been working with them and you've had to deliver some really difficult news to them? That something is that maybe their eyesight is getting worse. It's gone bad. It's gone sideways. Maybe, I know you spoke, your area is not about disease and so forth, but you're also a doctor. You also see things. You're also, you take me through a moment behind the moment where you've had to sit down with somebody and say, hey, Keith.
Yeah, I had a pitcher actually a few years back for the I think Toronto Blue Jays, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And he ended up getting a problem with his middle ear, so he had a lot of vertigo and a lot of dizziness. And you can imagine a pitcher who's spinning and moving quite a bit. If you have dizziness, that's not going to be great for your stability and able to trying to put the ball into the strike zone. And we spent a while with him trying to, and he already knew he had a problem, but we were kind of his last ditch effort to try to help, using his eyes, stabilize his physical positioning so that he would be able to pitch and continue his career. We spent quite a while trying to evaluate and train and do techniques and try to help him.
Yeah. And
it didn't work. We couldn't get him stable, and he just couldn't really pitch effectively anymore. And that was basically, we were his last hope, and we couldn't come through to help him continue his career. So that was kind of a tough slog. We'd have liked to obviously fix him. It would have been nice for us, and it would have been really good for him. But we just couldn't do it. And there are other cases that we just can't fix people. People if someone can be trained to get better, then I have work to do. If they're at their ability, their maximum ability already, then I can't do any more than that. And sometimes that's just not enough to make it, to the high levels of pro ball or pro sport.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Somebody can train to get their eyes better. You can
train/correct. So, if we talk about 20/20 is normal vision, right?
Yes.
That's just average normal. Average means 50th percentile, right? That means that there's better than 20/20 vision. In fact, there is. The best vision humanly possible is 20/8.
Over 8.
20/8. So that means that the really good person can see from 20 feet what the average person sees from 8 feet. They can be 12 feet further.
So hold on, say that again for me, because I'm a little slow here in Canada.
So 20/8 means that the average person can see from 8 feet what this really good vision person sees from 20 feet.
Holy smoker, that's a 12-foot delta.
12-foot delta, that's right. That's kind of the limit of human vision. And so if someone is 20/20, and to get to 20/8 or 20/10, not quite 20/8, 20/10, and they need a small prescription, I have work to do, because I need to figure out what that prescription is to get them to that point, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, if their brain just can't process at that high level of vision, in other words, the focus isn't the problem, it's their brain processing that information. If it can't do that, then we have a much harder job to try to get the vision better. There are some techniques of training we can get a little bit better, but we're not going to get to 20/8 or 20.
Okay, I'm pausing with quizzical look on my face because I'm processing this.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is that I'm a nerdy guy. So I'm a computer nerdy guy. So what you're saying to me is that I could be seeing faster than what my brain's processing it, just like a computer is maybe buffering something where the content's coming down and the computer is struggling to keep up with the content to distribute it. You're saying the same thing with the human happens, which is my eyesight might not be able to catch up to my brain or vice versa.
Yeah. If the vision, let's say your eye is fine,
Yes,
perfectly focused, and you have images coming in through the optic nerves into the visual part of the brain, which is all in the back of the head.
yes,
And if that part of the brain isn't trained, for example, I'll give you a really clear example. There are kids that have a lazy eye that need to have an eye patch.
yes, yeah.
And the eye patch is designed not to help the eye. The eye patch is there because we want the brain to use the eye more. And that person's brain is not able to use the vision coming from the eye properly. So you patch the eye in a young kid to get them to, improve, because kids are still developing. Their brain is still developing. And so you improve the vision better. Now, if you have someone who had that problem but didn't get it fixed and they're playing sports, now I have a bad task, because their brain's already set because they're already an adult. It's very hard to change the adult brain. The visual section there is not working optimally, and I can't do anything to fix it. So the vision's coming in good from the eye, but the brain just can't handle it at the right level. Just like because they had lazy eye when they were younger.
That would be troublesome for a race car driver who could see something, but can't process it fast enough.
Well, and it's not so much even it's
or reacting. Maybe it's the choice of word.
Film. Think about a camera, right? You have a lens on the camera and you have film in the camera. The old
yeah.
If the lens was focused properly, that's like your eye working normally.
Yes.
You expect to have a good picture.
Yes.
But if the film is, let's say, instead of a really fine grade film, if it's a rough grade film, depending on the ASA, the speed of the film, if it's a high speed film that works in low light, usually it's pretty grainy. If it's a film that's good for bright light, it's going to be very fine grain. Now, the finer the grain, the sharper the picture. So if you have a coarse grain film with a perfectly focused thing, you're not going to have as good a picture as you're going to have if you have a fine grain film. You're going to see little dots. It's not going to be as sharp.
Well, it's the idea of, excuse me, it's the retina displays, right? Pixel, high density pixel screens where you can see the pixel or not. It's the same theory, correct?
Same idea.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a high density pixel brain, you're not going to see as sharply as if you had it.
You can measure that with a human being. So if I came to your office, you could tell what kind of, I'll simplify this for a simpleton over here, but you could tell how dense how clear that my pixelation is, I guess. I'm trying to find the right choice of words.
Well, that's reflective the vision, right? If you're 20/20 or 20/10 or 28.
Of course. Duh. Yes. Okay. Duh. Can you get better than 28?
Probably not. That's probably the limit of human vision.
You say probably. There, you're leaving wiggle room there.
I leave wiggle room because depending on what target you use to measure, there's, if you, for example, letters versus numbers.
Yeah.
An E versus a bunch of letters. Direction of the E versus a bunch of letters. Ooh. So depending on the target you're using, the vision is going to be a little bit different. And when you're telling somebody, they're 20/20, usually that means with letters. But if I have a 4-year-old kid and I say they're 20/20, it probably was the big pictures, and those pictures are much easier to see than letters. And so it is important to know what target someone was looking at when you give them visions.
Dude, you might be knocking me down a few levels here, because I went to the eye doctor a few months ago and he's like, "Oh, Keith, your eye's great," because I was reading all the letters and numbers across the room. I was feeling all great. But I think he was just pumping my tires after talking to you right now.
Well, that's a very important problem for sports athletes, because they go to a regular eye doctor and they get their eyes checked and say, "I'm an athlete. I want you to check my eyes, make sure I'm okay." Doc says, "Yeah, you're 20/20, you're fine, everything's great, you're done." But he doesn't know that baseball players need 20/12, or that soccer players need 20/15. And so you may not be fine for what you want to do for your sport.
No kidding. So vision has stepped its way into the psyche of North America quietly in the last number of months with Apple's latest product, Apple Vision Pro. I'm super excited about it. You're familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I'm super excited about it because it's unveiling this brand new interface that nobody's even really kind of aware of yet, which is called eyesight. And I'm being very sarcastic right now, but I love how they've used basically the tools in your office to look at dots and see how things are around, and then using gestures to create a brand new interface for human beings to interact with the digital world. I would love to hear your point of view on what Apple's doing with that. I would love to hear your POV on maybe calming humans' nerves around strapping 8K screens to their eyes, because I grew up like you with mom and dad were like, "Keith, you're sitting too close to the TV." Now I'm strapping AK like millimeters from my eyes. Let's talk a little bit about where vision's going. Let's talk about how vision is actually the interface of the future. It's the vision's the user interface of the future, frankly.
Yeah, well, before I went to med school, I was a computer science major, so I'm a little bit nerdy on this topic.
Okay, good. So we're both in the same room then. Let's go.
We created, I created the first, I think the first surgical simulator in ophthalmology back in 1991. I think it was 1991.
Yeah.
Using the older folks know the Mac HyperCard program, and if they remember the game Operation,
yes,
the Nintendo Power Glove, we kind of put all that together into a surgical simulator.
Cool.
And we published a paper about that. So I've been working on this area for a while, and the truth is VR is something that we currently use, and there are a lot of sports vision companies or sports training companies that use virtual reality. I think I have 3 different head-mounted displays here already. The problem with those displays, and companies have found this, is that they're not good enough in terms of resolution, except for the Apple, in terms of resolution to simulate a true sports environment. For example, if you're throwing a pitch baseball, you need to have resolution to show the spin of the ball. It has to be a fast enough refresh rate of the screen to really make it realistic. And there isn't any headset, perhaps short of the Apple new one, that can do that. So companies are instead using the headsets. For example, a company called Reflection Go or Reflection Go has a headset where they have tasks with kind of hitting things quick, a hand-eye coordination task, a go, no-go type task, lots of different things that are important for the basis of sports vision, but not actually simulating the actual sport. That's been something that's been kind of a red herring that people have wanted to get. The Apple device, when I demoed it, incredible resolution of the screen, incredibly responsive. As you mentioned, a very unique interface connecting you with the screen. But I'm much more interested in the resolution of the screen and the speed of refresh of the images so that we can hopefully put up more realistic, immersive environments for athletes to practice in without having to be in the field, without using the motor fatigue, if you will, but can work on the vision and cognitive factors that are involved in performance in a realistic situation where what they're seeing is really what they would see if they were actually performing the sport. My hope is the Apple device will be able to do this. I think it's a little early. No, I haven't seen any company kind of attack that yet. But to me, that's an obvious area to look into.
It's interesting, Doctor, because I never even considered it from the point of view you're presenting, which is the athlete wearing it and using it for simulation and using it for vision simulation. And because now that you're speaking about it, I can imagine a pitcher or a batter using that headset and putting themselves in a real world situation and practicing. That didn't even cross my mind. I've always been thinking about it from the consumer perspective, consuming the baseball game or consuming the hockey game in VR. But the way you're presenting it is unlocks a whole bunch of different possibilities, frankly.
It could be, it can be consumer, it could be athlete. The ability, if you're an athlete and you're going to face a pitcher, in a couple of hours, who the starting pitcher is for your team, for the other team. And you can sit there and look at, 50, 60 pitches of this guy and see, get the idea of his windup, his delivery point, what the pitches move, how they move, because all that's going to be, done ahead of time, video from his previous experience. So you have a chance to see this pitcher with a whole ton of pitches before you actually go out and hit. But if you're a consumer, it would be great fun to, try to hit Aroldis Chapman's pitches, or to try to hit somebody else or try to, play the sport against athletes, because you can take their actual performance and put it all together into a virtual game where you're playing against these guys.
Man, so anybody watching me, anybody listening to you, or anybody who knows me knows my head's spinning right now with entrepreneurial ideas, because athletes could actually simulate the whole game before the game.
Yeah.
You could strap your headset on it and go, okay, I'm playing Daniel today. Daniel's my pitcher. I'm the batter. I can see how Daniel's going to pitch to me. I could spend an hour to 2 hours before the game with no physical effort, but actually simulating the game, but from all points of view. Whether you're a goalie, a winger, or a baseball player, I did not consider any of this until you presented it to me, and it just opens up a whole host of applications and so forth with mixed reality, and where you're going to see, I think, athletic training and athletes looking to get an edge, right? That whole idea of an edge, right? Because not everybody's going to want to embrace that. Like you've clearly told me, going, yeah, Keith, not everybody wants to get a vision edge.
Right.
But that really will present a unique edge to people who want to adopt the idea of simulation.
Well, imagine you're a base runner, right? And you want to, get a good sense of the pitcher's moves. What kind of moves they make before the pickoff, or what kinds of move they move to a different base. You can have you can experience dozens of those moves without actually being in the game. Whereas if you were in the game, maybe for the first time in months, you're seeing a pitcher make a move, which is foreign. Here, if you've seen dozens beforehand, it's old hat what he's going to do, how he's going to move, and when you should take off.
Wow. So again, never even considered this, but you just think about how sport really is going to change big time over the next 10 years. From how we're going to consume it as consumers, how the game is not only going to be played, how the players are going to train for it. The more we're talking about it, it's going to change significantly, frankly. Speaking of,
it's changed already. It's in 30 years I've been doing this, it's changed a ton already. If you look at the departments and teams that are looking at sports science, sports medicine, the training areas, the evaluation areas, the biometrics of spin rates of balls, of movements of body monitoring information where they're running around the pitch or on the football field, how fast you go, breakout speeds. All these things are all new in the last 10, 15 years, and it's just going to continue for sure.
Clearly, being in Manhattan, you're a Yankees guy.
I don't have any 100% allegiance to any team. The teams I work with are the teams that I want to win, and so far that's worked out pretty well.
He's looking across the room right now, Nation, and his jersey's on the wall going, oh, what team am I picking today? What game do I got to go to today? And who's coming to the office today, right? So, yeah.
We can't. All that is all highly confidential.
I guess I just tease with you, of course. What about, so talk about moving. Let's take a little snap back into Dr. Daniel Laby's past. So you started out as a computer scientist, and then you ended up becoming a vision expert. So no laziness going on in Laby's world here.
Well, I started in high school I graduated high school in 1979.
Yeah.
And a few years before that, I started working with the first computers, punch tape with a typewriter. And we had to feed in this roll of tape, which was the program. Then we moved on to punch cards and the big.
I remember all that
systems. Things progressed, and I got to college, and I started as a computer science major in college, and it was fun. But the truth is, it wasn't extremely challenging. I would have the assignments done the same day as they were handed out. I worked as a consultant in the computer lab, helping other people with their programs, debugging them, and so forth. And so I decided I wanted to go to medical school. So I did a chemistry, computer science double major in undergraduate, and then went to med school. Still always had my interest in computer science, and I still do it to this day. I have Python on my computer. I program stuff. I'm looking at AI and different programs, all sorts of things like that. But and it's the idea is to bring together different fields together into new ideas, and that's what allows for advancement. And I went to med school, and I thought in med school I would learn all about medicine. I'd be a great doctor. Then I realized pretty quickly in medical school I'm not going to be able to learn everything. So we're going to narrow it down to the eyes, and figured out I'm not going to learn everything about the eyes either. Too much there. And so then I narrowed it down further and ended up being pediatrics, kids, and eye alignment, how the brain uses the eyes together. Went to do my fellowship in Los Angeles at UCLA, and was told I had to do a project. And the project was work they had started with the LA Dodgers a few months before. And I didn't want to pick up someone else's project, but they sort of said, you have to do this. And I said, okay, if I'm the first, the lead guy on this. And it was interesting. And I wrote a paper about it. It was published about our experience with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers had us back for about 18 seasons doing work with them. Other teams heard about it, and it kind of blossomed from there.
You're the epitome of what I love about my show. I'm telling you, you're because you're nerdy like me. And so, because I want to talk AI and computer science stuff with you now for the next 20 minutes or so. We talked vision, we talked to doctor stuff. Like, you're like, I'm bored of this stuff. I do this for the 30 years. Let's talk Python. Let's talk about AI. Let's talk large language models. But I joke because when I put the show together, the ambition was just to meet awesome humans, incredibly talented human beings around the world. Like I said, I had Joseph Malone in my lab a couple days ago who went from shooting heroin in his arm to being a special ops person. I had a guy yesterday in my lab who started 2 companies and got fired from one that he raised up to $100 million. Like, got a guy like yourself who gets frankly bored being a expert in computers and computer scientists. So I'm going to go be a medical doctor instead of being an expert in eyes. But then you're like, how did you end up deciding you lost me on what the what are the eyes?
The binocular vision, strabismus.
Yes. Like, how did you end up there?
Well, pediatrics includes a misalignment in the eyes. People have
Yes.
cross-eyed or eyes that turned out. Because and that's how sports is that's how I got into sports, because sports athletes, how you use your eyes, how your brain uses your vision is critical. In kids, how your brain uses the eyes and how the brain can develop vision is critical. There's a lot of overlap between what's important for athletes and what's important for kids. And so that's where that kind of melds together. And, it runs a full gamut. We're not talking about disease here. Even vision testing.
Of course.
We developed a test with a company named Alcon. Alcon is one of the companies make contacts and make eye drops and so forth. And they wanted to find a way to test vision better than the eye chart. And we in sports wanted to test vision better than the eye chart, because we found the eye chart vision doesn't really correlate to performance on the athletic field. And so we figured out, over time, that you just can't use an eye chart that has black and white letters where people can spend as long as they want to try to figure out what's on the screen and come up with an answer. Because when you're driving a car, whether it's on a racetrack or on a at dusk on a foggy night, and you're trying to read a street sign, you have to see quickly. You have to see something and be able to react to it. You can't look at the eye chart and spend 30 seconds and say that's an F and a G and a D and get it right and say you have good vision. If you can't see it quickly, there's a problem. Yes. And so we made this test that shows small targets that are very faint, low contrast, and that are only shown for a short time. And when we developed that test along with Alcon, what we found was, first of all, that people that had 20/20 vision had very different results when you show them that kind of a test. So it was able to separate ability in people that were bunched together as having the same vision on a regular test. More importantly, the results of that test correlated with batting performance, for example, in baseball. And so we could use that test to say, you're not batting well because you have a problem either with the contrast, with the ability to process it quickly, or with the small picture. And there's 3 U.S. patents. There's a bunch of international patents on this test, because it's a unique way to evaluate vision, which comes out of the training in pediatrics, the training in sports, and experience.
Interesting. Wow. It's interesting. So let's pivot. Let's pivot our conversation to your other love, the computer science side of your world, where you spend time probably on the hobby side of things. I'm thinking, large language models entered the world in the last, 20 months now, 18 months now. AI has obviously been playing a big role in your industry already behind the scenes. How are you seeing, the AI that's affecting all of us consumers, and perhaps what's affecting, maybe going through your office these days? How are you using tools? Give me your POV on AI, and you're a computer science guy. You probably use it. You play with it. Are you programming with it? Python? Let's talk a little bit about AI.
I'll show you. I'll pull this over here from the side. I'll show you my one of my little projects here that I'm working on.
Nice.
This is a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
Robot truck. And
nice.
when I don't have a lot of time to build on it, but one of the things I want to do is program the AI to have it, avoid obstacles and move, make decisions ahead of time of where to go based on what the camera's seeing in front and so forth. So that's one of the side jobs. But
that's fun.
It's fun. It's fun. It's a challenge. But I'd love to, for example, I'm not there at all, but to create a system that well, for example, you saw that it's kind of failed a little bit, but I forgot the name of it. There's a little pin thing that just came out from another company.
The humane pin, yeah, that's massive fail. Yeah.
Right. But think about having that. Let's say if you're blind, right? You have very poor vision. If you have that over here and it has a camera in front, and the system can see every people walking there, and it can kind of signal to you, where you have to walk. So you don't have to have a stick anymore. You have this camera that's with an AI system that's monitoring where people are walking and their trajectories and when they're passing each other and where there's space for you to walk, so you can walk on the sidewalk without having to have a stick back and maybe you have a little earphone that says left, right, left,
yes.
something like that.
Yeah, that's a brilliant application for that humane pin. Right. You speak about that. Do you own a Tesla? Have you tried the new Tesla full self-drive experience?
Yes, I have a Tesla, and I got a free month. And
yes, I'm using it too right now. And I got to tell you, I'm extremely impressed at the vision of that thing. Knowing that Elon said a few years ago, we're not using LiDAR, we're not using radar, we're using pure vision. Yeah. And wow, have I been impressed at the vision capabilities of my full self-drive, whatever it is, 12.
Especially, when you see the map of your car and the cars around you.
Yes.
Picking up, all around is picking up all the cars around. I'm not sure how from my car it can see all that, but it somehow does, I guess.
It got me, Daniel, when I was driving as an interchange was coming up to the highway, and I can see this semi, like, and I'll exaggerate, but way over there, out the peripheral of my vision, and I'm on full self drive. Of course, I got my hands on the steering wheel, and but I'm looking at the screen, and I'm like, oh my God, I can see the semi. I was so impressed by the fact that, because I was stretching out the peripheral eye over here, right? And I'm like, okay, I see it over there. And sure enough, on my screen, and we moved out of the way, and I was, not puffing up smoke of Tesla, but I was quite impressed of what I was experiencing there.
I did have one episode 2 days ago, actually, that I'm holding this. I don't fully trust it, so I hold the steering wheel pretty good.
Me too.
Sometimes I hold it too strong and it turns off by itself. But
yes,
all of a sudden I was driving. The road was pretty good, but there must have been something on the road or on the side that triggered it. And all of a sudden the wheel spun. And if I hadn't held it, we would have just hit the side of the battery of the road. So that was a little bit disconcerting. So I do hold on to it. I don't think I'm going to pay. I'm not going to buy for the price. I'm not going to buy it because I don't think I need it that much. But it is very impressive.
It is, yes. I don't think I am either, Daniel. I've paid enough for full self-drive over the years that haven't had full self-drive, if you know what I'm getting at. So I'm thinking that I've been drinking the Kool-Aid for a long time, and maybe I can just set the Kool-Aid aside until it's really full self-drive.
Yeah.
The
lane changing is interesting. The exits, it's incredible technology. That the Tesla itself, I think, is an incredible.
Yes.
For computer science nerds, it's a great car to have.
Well, so just taking your point before we wrap up our chat here, I did experience like the whole, like end to end. I put an address in, and I sat in the car, and I said, let's go, essentially. And I put my hands on the steering wheel, and it did everything. It turned, it did signals. It literally drove my wife and I to the restaurant and right up to the parking spot. I was like, wow, the big one for me was, okay, it had to cut across a massive interchange of traffic, like an uncontrolled exchange. And I pulled up with my hands on the steering wheel, and it did it. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty awesome, right? Because as a nerd, and we're probably similar age, you grew up kind of wondering what that's going to feel like when it happens. Well, I experienced it, and I'm like, that's pretty cool, man. This robot drove me here.
Yeah, I want to see, actually, what I haven't done is the parking or the calling the car to you.
The summon.
Or self-parking.
Yes.
Those are things I haven't tested yet, but I'd like to see that before the month is up.
Yes. You know what we can do, Daniel? We could do a little segment. You take your iPhone, I'll take my iPhone. We'll go take our Teslas to our respective parking lots, and we'll go do a shoot who can park their Tesla better with remote, whether Dr. Labby or Dr. Keith Bilous. Daniel Labby, is it Labby or Laby?
Labby.
Labby. The whole show, I'm finally the great host here at the end of the show, finally getting the name correct. But Dr. Labby, is there anything that you want to make sure the audience knows about you, how they can find you, how they can connect with you? Is there anything we have not spoke about today that you want to make sure the audience knows about that I haven't asked you about? Because right now is the time for you to wrap that up, put a bow on it before we say goodbye.
Yeah. So anybody who's interested, in learning more about sports vision, or how the brain uses the eyes in sports or in general, I wrote a book that came out last month. Called Eye of the Champion. It's available on Amazon. It's gotten pretty good reviews. It's got like 50 something reviews. It's like 4.9 something, 9.5. So it's been pretty popular. So that's an interesting resource. I think it's written for athletes. It's written for lay people. It's not a medical textbook. I have in there some kind of anecdotes over the years of doing work with different athletes, and I have a lot of examples of testing, training, and understanding how vision works. So I think that's a interesting resource for people, a good way to get started. And the more the athlete, more the people know about their own bodies, their own eyes, what they're looking for. When they go to the doctor, they're able to be their own advocate to maximize, the visit, maximize the experience to get the best treatment that they can. On the internet, I have a YouTube channel. It's got about 14,000 subscribers. Every week I put up a video about sports vision there. If you just sports vision by Dr. Labby, it's pretty easy. Or a website, sportsvision.nyc. NYC, obviously, because that's where I'm at. Sportsvision.nyc. And there's a contact form. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, I'd be happy to interact. There's a lot of resources there, information there that could be helpful also.
It's exceptional. Eye of the Champion from Dr. Laby, available on Amazon.com. Let's see that book again, my friend. Fantastic. Unlocking the Power of Sports Vision for Peak Performance. What a fantastic conversation today.
My pleasure. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It's good to meet someone who's as nerdy as I am.
Precisely, exactly. But you know, you're definitely more handsome than I am, though. So you know, I always tell them I can't be the most handsome host all of the time. So you know, you get to be exactly. It's exactly right. That's exactly it, Dr. Laby. How's the YouTube channel going?
It's going well. You know, 14,000 subscribers. It's you know, growing steadily. I try to vary the content from, you know, information content to highlighting, you know, athletes. Interesting enough, probably the most watched videos is blood and gore of a Premier League goalie who got injured and what happened to his eye. That seems to be the most popular video. But there's a lot of variety, I think, on the channel, and I think everybody will find something of interest. Every Tuesday morning, I put a new video out.
All right, Tuesday morning, and the channel again is
Sports Vision by Dr. Laby. Sports
Vision by Dr. Laby. That so we got some catching up to do. We only got a few thousand subscribers behind your 14, but that is fantastic. I'm a big fan of that. We'll do what we can to absolutely support you, Dr. Laby. Come back and see us again sometime, will you?
I'd be happy to. Yes, it was a good conversation. Enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just ask you to hang tight in the green room for a quick second. You can go play with your Raspberry Pi robot, and I will come back and walk you out in a minute while I say goodbye to Nation, okay?
So I'm going to tune into the morning show, too. I like that.
You do have to tune into, yeah, don't tune into that New York stuff, man. You want to tune into what we're doing here. And so I'm in the Midwest, North, and we got Nicole in the West over there. But you should drop in for coffee. Yes, you should drop in for coffee. Tell stories. Man, now that I'm thinking about it, you should drop by all the time. We got the official vision doctor in the lab. We could talk baseball after big games, hockey. Oh, man. Stanley Cup playoffs. Are you a hockey fan?
I like hockey. I took care of Wayne Gretzky. And
you did?
A lot of good players, yeah.
Oh, dude, I didn't ask the right. You took care of Wayne Gretzky, eh? So, you know, it's interesting. Speaking of Wayne, I was reading a fascinating article in The Athletic about, you know, is it good or bad that Wayne is still the face of the NHL? And it's like, geez, he is still the face of the NHL. That's kind of an embarrassment, isn't it?
I'm not going to get into I'm an eye doctor. I can't tell you about stuff like that. But
well, and I love Wayne. I have no knock on Wayne or the NHL. I'm just talking in terms of, wow, the NHL has dropped the ball because we got McDavid, we got Bedard, we got Crosby, we got all these great guys. And
years ago.
Yeah, and I love Wayne as much as anybody, frankly. Grew up with the guy. But it's when I read that, I was like, wow, that's true. We really haven't moved past that yet. So
it's funny, I took care of his son too in baseball.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
All right. So we know we're getting Dr. Laby back for more sports stories here in the lab. Doctor, we'll put you back in the room. We'll see you in a moment. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Awesome. Hang tight. All right. So there we go. Dr. Laby, you can find his contents. There's the music coming up there. Eye of the Champion from Dr. Laby, available on Amazon.com. You can find him on YouTube. But that's after you watch our content. Watch our stuff, then you go over and take out Dr. Laby's content. Or you go watch Dr. Laby's content and come back to our stuff. Anyways, I'm going to get out of here. Great show, great day today. Wow, what a fantastic day. I'm just setting up tomorrow. Tomorrow's Two Dads in a Lab trying to be 2% better. And we have at noon tomorrow, Jonathan Toombley coming up tomorrow in the lab. Oh, that's the Two Dads show. That's right. Mornings in the lab. Oh, man, doing so much content. Cody Hand and Audacious Goals Friday. We have Anthony Mahai joining us in the lab tomorrow morning as well. All right, I'm going to get out of here, go walk out the doctor, maybe get my eyes checked on the way out. We'll see you guys. Tomorrow.